If KU wants another three-point shooter, ball handler off the bench, you do worse than Noam Dovrat, a transfer from Miami who shot over 40% from three.
You are Locked On Jayhawks, your daily podcast on the Kansas Jayhawks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Derek Johnson here, and on today's episode of Locked On Jayhawks, a little bonus show, we're going to break down another deep dive on a potential transfer portal target, Noam Dovrat, one that I think would make a lot of sense for KU because he's a three-point shooter and ball handler. So we'll get into his game, break down his scouting report, potential fit with KU. Is it something to expect or not? All that on today's episode of the show. Well, Dovrat is a 6'5", 213-pound guard. I'm not entirely sure what his year is because I've seen some places list him as a freshman for this past season where he'd be a sophomore. I don't really think that makes sense based on the age. I've seen other places list him as a junior. He's 23 years old though, so with the potential 5-5 stuff, this might be his last season. Now, I think he turns 24 this summer, so would he be eligibility out? And maybe is that why he's uncommitted right now, because people are waiting for clarity what's going to happen? That's kind of a question with what is going to happen here. But he's a former 87 rated three-star at 24/7 Sports who has a ton of international playing experience. He played in Israel as a youth. Then he comes over to Miami for this past season for a team that made it to the second round of the tournament. And for the Hurricanes this past year, 3.8 points per game, 1 assist per game. He played in 27 games with 0 starts. He averaged 9.4 minutes per game. This was a role player for Miami, right? And he had a very specific role. Add some ball handling, right? Kind of a point guard at 6'5", and make some threes off the bench. And he did that. He had over a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, and he went 27 of 58 from three. That is 46.6% from three-point range. He had 7 games making multiple threes. He had a season best of 4 threes on 2 occasions. One of them came against SMU. One of them came against Boston College. Now, metrically, he was in the 69th percentile in offensive RAPM, 45th percentile on defensive RAPM. He was in the 95th percentile in win shares per 40 minutes, 78th percentile in PER, 62nd percentile in wins above replacement player. And then from an on-off perspective, team was basically the same, whether he was on or off the floor. But for a bench player that on a tournament team, that actually is kind of impressive because that means you're keeping pace with the starter in front of you, right? But he's not on the Athletics top 100. He's not ranked at On 3 and 24/7 Sports. He does come in at number 326 on Evan Miyakawa's transfer rankings, including if you filter to the top available right now, he's in the top 70 there. This is one that, again, you're not bringing in to be, some needle mover starter. This is a player you'd be bringing in to do similar stuff to what he did in Miami, be a role player and fit into that role well. But I think the role that he fits into is something that Kansas could probably need and want at this point in time. So let's get more into his scouting report next. This is Locked On Jayhawks. We're brought to you by Rocket Money. If you've ever opened your bank account and thought, where'd all my money go? Well, you're not alone. Keeping track of subscriptions, spending, and bills, it can all get overwhelming fast. That's where Rocket Money comes in, helping you take control of your finances all in one place. It tracks all your subscriptions in one spot. It can help you cancel the ones that you don't need with just a few taps. Maybe you forgot that you were going to cancel something and then you forgot to, or maybe you got the subscription to something to watch some like sporting event and then you forgot to cancel, right? It tracks all those subscriptions, and you can even set budgets, get alerts, and stay on top of your upcoming bills. It just makes everything feel more organized and gives you a clearer picture of your finances day to day. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. You can join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That is rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Check out the Everydayer Club to get the ad-free version of the show at lockedonjayhawks.supercast.com, lockedonjayhawks.supercast.com. Our strengths and weaknesses scouting report for Noam Dovrat. Let's start with the strengths. The shooting is obviously the big headline here, right? He was in the 99th percentile in three-point percentage, in effective field goal percentage, in true shooting percentage, and in play style as a perimeter sniper. Now, obviously, this comes at a limited sample size. If he's, taking double the amount of threes, he's probably still a really good shooter, but some of the efficiency goes down. But point being, for what he took, he was super, super efficient. And he also, when he was out there, got up a lot of threes. He was in the 95th percentile in 3-point attempt rate. And again, he's making them at a 47% clip. And the beauty, too, he did it from all over. You're talking, he shot 40% or better from all 5 3-point zones, both corners, both wings, and the top. 40% or better from all 5. So he was pretty proof to wherever you needed him to be. And again, it's on a bit of smaller volume, but I think the fact that he was good in all zones does tell you that it is not just a small sample thing, right? So excellent 3-point shooter. And from the standpoint of if you were Kansas, you were kicking the tires on Abdi Bashir, clearly you have some interest in bringing on an elite 3-point shooter. Dovrat would kind of qualify from that standpoint too. The beauty, though, of Dovrat is that he came over as a point guard, and he is another ball handler and a fine passer. And I've brought up before that, like, if Kansas does use one of or both of these final 2 scholarships, I wouldn't hate them bringing on another ball handler here, because you look at it, and if Taylon Kinney and Leroy Blyden, those are your ball handlers, who's your next ball handler on the roster? I mean, I guess Luke Barnett becomes that guy for practice situations and stuff, but like, wouldn't you like to have somebody else to at least be, whether it's the level of Diggy Coit or the level of Giangallo, to give you another ball handler for practice, for just in case of emergency? He would give you the ability to provide that. He was in the 70th percentile in assist rate. He was in the 93rd percentile in assist to turnover rate, and he was in the 61st percentile in hitting cutters. So he's a good passer. He takes care of the ball. He doesn't turn it over, and he hits threes. It's lower volume, in terms of his usage necessarily, but that's a good thing for what you're looking for here, right? He was also a solid transition scorer in terms of efficiency too, though that was on lower volume as well. Now, some of the weaknesses here for Dovrat: rebounding. He is 6'5", so you would think that, okay, you should at least be a decent rebounder. Not really the case. He was in the 6th percentile or worse in both offensive and defensive rebound rate, which basically means that, at 6'5", if he was a good rebounder, you could play him more at the 2 and 3 even. But because he's not a rebounder, like, you're pretty much limited to what the role is, right? He also doesn't really get to the free throw line. He doesn't provide really any rim pressure. He struggled on the limited amount of 2s that he took. He was really bad on mid-range shots. Also, though, part of me is like, well, his role was just to shoot 3s. So does that really matter if he struggles at those things? Because you're not asking him to do those things, right? I also don't really think he's a great defender. I do think that's an area where you kind of look at it and say, okay, you're not expecting him to be a plus defender, right? You're probably not even expecting him to be an average defender, but the role you'd be bringing him on for is not one that I don't think would be part of the rotation necessarily. It'd more be like spot minutes and more be coverage at certain things that would be nice to have insurance for if you're KU. So let's break down the potential fit. Does it make sense for KU next? Once again, you can join the Everydayer Club to get the ad-free version of Locked On Jayhawks. Just go to lockedonjayhawks.supercast.com. That is lockedonjayhawks.supercast.com. So as of right now, KU has 2 scholarships available. And as I've brought up, I think they could probably use, like, if you're going to use them, I don't know if they will use them. If they are going to use them, I would love to see them add an international player, right? That's probably your best chance to take a potential swing, take a ceiling swing by bringing on a player to that nature, and adding somebody who, like, maybe these 2 things line up, but the international thing is not like a necessity. It's just that I feel like at this point, getting a player with the highest potential would probably have to come from overseas. But realistically, if you do fill those 2 spots, I think you're looking at adding another ball handler and adding a big man. And it'd be great if the ball handler could shoot 3s as well, just to add that element into the fold here, right? And so I look at Dovrat and I say, okay, you can handle the ball, you don't turn the ball over, and you shoot 3s and you shoot them well. Like, that to me makes him the perfect 9th man candidate for KU. That when I look at a 9th man, when Bill Self typically plays an 8-man rotation, your 9th man is basically playing spot minutes, meaning in a specific game, they might not play. In another game, if somebody in front of them is hurt or sick or whatever it is, maybe they play 10 minutes that game, or if they come in, maybe they play 5 minutes one game. Maybe they play 15 the other game because they start 3 of 3 from 3-point range and get a little bit more leash, right? That's kind of what I'm looking for from a ninth man. I think Dovrat fits that. He would give you that extra ball handler, especially because you have two underclassmen in the backcourt right now. Give you an older guy who's going to be 24 here coming up in like a month or two. Give you more 3-point shooting, which is never going to be a bad thing here for KU. I think that makes sense. And it doesn't seem like one that, given he was playing 9 minutes per game for Miami, he's probably not going to cost like a ton of money, right? Now, the question is, does KU have any money left, right? And that's probably the biggest hurdle here for having to overcome that. But here's where again, you have to wait and see what's going to happen with the 5-5. Is he going to be grandfathered in? Is he going to be eligible? Is he going to surpass that number? Like, what's going to happen here? Because I would imagine teams are waiting to see what is going to happen to figure that out. But that could work into KU's favor. Think about it. KU has made like an August edition the last couple of seasons, right? You look at adding, I guess if you wanted to say Bryson Tiller, that was like a mid-season edition a couple of years ago, but you look at adding Diggy Coit, that was like an August edition for KU headed into that season. Johnny Furphy was like an August edition for KU. Gosh, Paul Mbia would have been later in the game. That might have been July or something, but still, like KU has made some of these later editions, and sometimes they've even worked out pretty well for KU. So KU's comfortable doing that. The majority of the roster and rotation seems pretty set, so you can afford to wait on it. And the beauty of that is the longer he goes with trying to figure out his situation, the longer he has to wait, the more other rosters and scholarships fill up, the more his market gets driven to a point where maybe it's easier for KU to afford him, and maybe there's less teams offering an opportunity. So this is just one I'm kind of circling for later, being like, hey, if we get to the 5-5 thing, it gets voted in, it gets passed. We wait and see what happens with his eligibility down the road. If he's eligible, could he be somebody that would fall into KU's lap and make for a good ninth man? I'd be all about that if it happened. All right, that'll do it for this episode of Locked On Jayhawks. You can find our show anywhere you get your podcast, including on our YouTube page where you can like and subscribe to the show. See you next time.